Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Berks Bards. It's a virtual poetry reading series coming to you live from a virtual place near Reading, Pennsylvania. I am your host, Bernardo. Unfortunately, tonight we are having some technical difficulties and I will not be joining you face to face. We can't talk eye to eye, but you can hear me. And the most important thing is that you can hear and see our featured poet, Patti Ross. What we're going to do tonight, prior to introducing Patti, is I'd like to ask Marilyn if she has any comments or announcements to be made about poetry in the local area of Reading. Marilyn?
Yeah, just to let people know, and this probably won't apply to anybody here because everybody's in such diverse places. I am holding workshops at Berks Encore in Douglasville on the last Friday of every month, starting at 10:30, and we're doing a little booklet about cats and dogs and whatever pets people like to have in their houses. That's really it. I'm hoping Berks Bards continues because we are coming up against a hard deadline with Jennifer Hetrick feeling like she can't continue as president anymore. So I'm not sure what's going to happen into the future.
And therefore, we will stay in the present, y'all. Marilyn, you can put your information in the chat if you'd like for anybody who's local. Or, you never know. I drove up for the Berks Jazz Fest a couple weeks ago, and in doing so, I went to the Goggle Works. So I saw where the bards really happens.
Yeah.
And I met Elizabeth and Marilyn in person.
Nice.
And Elizabeth took me to a farmer's market where I got some sweet, juicy peaches. Oh my God. And some homemade pastry.
Oh, wow.
It's fantastic. So you never know. You know, somebody might feel like making a little road trip, Maryland, and they'll come up and join you for your writing series. Welcome, Ann Hardy. And so you never know. So just drop the stuff in the chat. And Marilyn, do you have any announcements to be made on behalf of the Berks Bards? Elizabeth.
Yes, I want to mention, thank you, Bernardo. I want to mention that next month, I believe our poet is Enzo Silon Surin. Marilyn, can you confirm that?
I don't have my notes in front of me. I'm sorry, I can't.
I believe that there was some confusion about whether he was going to be September or October, but I believe he's the October poet. And he is originally from Haiti, or his roots are in Haiti. So he's obviously, I don't know that he lives in Haiti, but he's concerned about the Haitian people who are, affected by the earthquake and the troubles in Haiti. So we'll let you know. Jennifer or someone will put the word out about October, and we look forward to seeing you then. First Thursday in October.
Sounds good. I think I reached out to him. I think he might be in New York. But he's somewhere not in Haiti. So thank God. I mean, but considering the way the storm came in last night, there's a lot of people in a lot of places going through things. And so it's a blessing to not have that be your reality. But our hearts go out to all those that are struggling. And hopefully the poetry will bring some light. Matter of fact, when I was talking to Patti, her book that she'll be talking about brings highlight to a lot of people who she witnessed going suffering and struggles. And that is one of the things that I so admire about us as poets. We record history for people. We speak about their plights to people who would not know about them. Such as Hiram's thing with the poet's hunger, but we also bring the light, we bring joy, we bring vision to people to help them see it's going to be better. So tonight's going to be a fantastic reading, and I'm about to. Patti's back. Oh, sorry, okay, I'm almost ready to introduce Patti. Before I do that, I would like to say that in the chat, I'm assuming everybody is close enough familiar enough with Zoom by now to know where the chat is. In the chat, you can put your name down if you want to read for the open mic that will follow Patti's initial presentation. Of course, she'll be holding back one powerhouse poem that will close the evening for us. But the first 20, 25 minutes or so are going to belong to Patti. So let me
Do
bring
you get into chat? How do you get into chat? Listen,
in the bottom of your window, underneath all the names, when you drag your mouse down there, you'll see a thing that looks like a little cartoon thing, bubble, and it says chat. And you click on that, and the window will open over to your right, and you'll see information being scrolled in, and that will allow you to reach out and communicate to all.
you hit 1, is it?
A 1? I don't see a 1. It says chat.
Uh-huh.
You see it?
Yes, there's a 1 on it. And then underneath of it, there's some kind of logo, but I don't know what that is.
Just click on the little icon that says chat. Just click on that, Emily. The one that said 1, just click on it. And then the chat will open up on your screen.
And if it doesn't work for you, Emily, just, you're on screen. Did you want to read?
Please,
Okay, I'll put you on the list. Not a problem.
thank you.
You don't have to make this have not to be complicated. We got
Okay.
we got Patti Ross going on tonight, y'all. Ain't nothing got to be complicated.
Right? Thank
So
you.
now, speaking of Patti Ross graduated from Washington, D.C.'s Duke Ellington School for the Performing Arts and the American University, where she majored in dance. After graduation, several of her journalistic pieces, which she became a journalist while she was in college, some of her pieces were published in the Washington Times, and then she picked up a following in the rural American newspapers, and people began to follow Patti Ross. And retiring from a career in technology, because she went on to do some other things other than writing and other than dancing. After she retired, she rediscovered her love of writing, and now she shares her voice as the spoken word artist Little Pie. Her poems are published in the Pen and Hand Journal, Poetry X Hunger website, and the Oyster River Pages, Composite Dreams issue of the Oyster River Pages. And her debut chapbook, St. Paul Street Provocations, was released in July 2021, that's this year, by Yellow Arrow Publishing. And you can follow her blog at https://littlepiesuniverse.com. The bio I just read to you, you can find in your email, so you don't have to remember any of that information. It's just a way of introducing Patti. And Patti's going to tell you some more about herself as she sees fit as we continue on the program. But for right now, I'd like for everyone's hearts and minds to be open and available and attentive to Patti Little Pie Ross.
Woo!
Hey!
All right. I wish I was coming out on the stage on that one. Wow, that's great. So I think most of you guys have probably heard this story before, but for those who haven't, so I'm a spoken word artist. I write poetry, but I love to speak it, perform it, give it a voice, because I really feel like that's like an important part of it. And my stage name is Little Pie, which pays homage to my great grandmother, who on my grandfather's side, all of the women before his mother were, I say concubines because it was not a voluntary situation. They were women of the master of the plantations to which they hailed from. And when my grandfather was a little boy, my great-great-grandmother, they say, walked 100 miles, but I know it probably wasn't 100 miles, but walked so many miles to bring them a picture of themselves so that if slavery, she said, if slavery ever came back, she wanted them to know, particularly her daughter, to know who her children were. And I'm here in North Carolina. The reason I had disappeared for a second is because I was going to get you guys the picture, because we still have it. My mother has it sort of preserved. So I'm trying to see if I can get it up to the screen enough for you guys to see. But this is it here. I don't know if you can you see that kind of? And this is my grandfather here, wherever the little boy is, and his two sisters and their mother. And her mother, Celia walked to bring her that photo so she would never read. So part of that just leads to, with my writing, a lot of it is ancestral and a lot of it has to do with social justice too, just from having just like those deep roots and that kind of thing, right? Of always remembering, never forgetting. And so, you know, you forgive and you move on, but you don't allow yourself to forget, right? And you don't want others to forget. So with this book, which I'm super excited, it's a small collection, but I was super excited. Yellow Arrow Publishing published the collection for me. It was from a time when I lived in Baltimore, which was from 2011 to about 2013, 2014. And I just went in, I moved into this place. I was trying to save money. So it was kind of like, I thought it was sort of on the edge of the hood, but it was actually in the hood. And so I had some really interesting characters and folks that lived around me. But the interesting thing about it is, like, eventually they weren't characters, they were friends.
1 o'clock Sunday.
It was so cool. One of the folks that lived in my building, who actually, a gentleman right below me, he would get up in the morning and cuss everybody out, like in the whole neighborhood. And what I didn't know was that around the corner from me were several meth labs and Mosaic, which is a drug rehab and alcohol rehab facility. And that in the bottom of the building where I lived were one room, you know, efficiencies that were rented out to these people from Mosaic. And he was one of the folks. And he would get up at about like 6:30 in the morning, and he would go out in the street, and it was a tall guy, tall black guy, and he would just cuss out everybody. And he'd go around the corner, I guess, get his meds, come back. But at about 7 o'clock in the evening or 7:30, something like that, this guy would start singing. And it was the most beautiful tenor voice you've ever heard. And he would sing opera. It was amazing.
Wow.
And yeah, it was just so crazy. And so, you know, and I mean, to the point where you stop everything you're doing and go, what's going on? So then I started like looking forward to it. And we kind of bumped into each other in the laundry room at one point. And he didn't talk or anything like that. And I told him about it. And after that, you know, he just he would always give me like the smile and the nod, right? Like never a real conversation, but the smile and nod. But anyway, this poem, Bridge Over 2 Blocks, sort of reminded me a little bit about his yelling, sort of his warnings. And then this actually, some of this actually happened during that time. Bridge Over 2 Blocks. Warning, what you are about to hear will burn your ear off. Warning, these streets are not at night are not the place to be dropped off. Warning, Stefan was in that very spot when he got knocked off. Warning, the shit that happens in that street, on that street, in that neighborhood, in that city might make you want to jump off the bridge. Last week, Marsha did. Warning, the bridge is very high. Warning, if you jump, you will not survive. Warning, that block is rough. Warning, you will not survive. Warning, Pookie from across the bridge came across the bridge to that block. Warning, he got his ear cut off. Warning, he tried again. Warning, he got bumped off. Warning, this street ain't that block. Or is it? So thank you. And that's actually the 2 block bridge is, if you're familiar with Baltimore, if you go up to North Avenue, there's the bridge that goes over 183 is a bridge that crosses over, and it's about a 2 block span. One side of it is Bolton Hill, which I lived when I left, and Bolton Hill is, how about we just say Park Avenue runs through it. And then the other side was the side I was living on when I wrote this, which was not Bolton Hill, which is Station North and happens to be now like the new artsy district, but it wasn't that before. It was just simply Station North. So, and that's on the corner of Lafayette and St. Paul Street, which is where we get the cover from, because there's some muralists, Jesse and Katie, and they painted a mural on the park that was across the street. So when I first moved to this area, the little park that was across the street was just really horrible. I mean, there were needles, it was really run down, it was really bad. I wouldn't even walk my dog there because I was afraid he might step on something. And they came through as a part of a project and did a beautiful mural on the ground. And when they did the mural, at some point somebody had planted roses around. And so one morning we woke up and looked out there, and it was these beautiful roses all around, and the mural had just finished, and the park looked beautiful. And that evening went to bed, and the next day when we got up, somebody had cut off all the heads of the roses and just left them laying there. Yeah, it was like, you know, I still think about it because it was just really like, you know, I don't know, it was just sort of really disconcerting and, you know, kind of scary, because it's like, what, you know, who would do that, right, of all these beautiful plants. So anyway, and that's part of what happened with writing this book, and seeing some of these things and writing some of the poems, was that I would walk my dog at about 10 o'clock at night. This is about two little boys, those boys. The two of them look just alike. Interesting how they fight. Fist held up as if in flight, neither tries to flee. Much too young to have this battle here on the city street. Why are they not in the play yard where young children go to meet? The asphalt that surrounds them, telling a crumbled story of life. Dirt path walkways make one wonder, how will these boys survive? Shoes untied and rocks in hand, the sound of their mother's ardent wrath. One's nose is bloody now, the other's eye has swelled, and others gather around the duo to end the fighting spell. So this poem was kind of interesting because there were two little boys fighting, and the mom was like screaming from the house down the street. And man, you talking about something breaking up quick. It broke up quick, but not before they got some licks in them. But that was a really interesting scenario to see. So Homeless. So I'll talk about Homeless. This is one of my favorite poems, is Homeless. And Homeless is about a guy named Darnell. And so when I lived in Baltimore, I go down Martin Luther King, which I know people have heard of Martin Luther King. And like between, say, Penn Ave and like Fayette, there are some brothers and sisters that are like homeless, and they live there, and they pretty much kind of made that their home. City comes through, sweeps them out, you know, and they kind of come back. I think it's so ridiculous the city comes and sweeps them out. I'm like, let them stay there. But when I would go to work, you had to drive, and sometimes the light would take a couple of times to change. And so I got a chance to talk to people. And you know, the thing about homeless people is when you see people on the street, they really just want eye contact, right? Like they just want somebody to acknowledge that you see me, I'm here. You know, a lot of times, like, I'm like, I don't have anything, but, you know, and they're like, oh, you know, have a blessed day. Thank you so much. Just the recognition. And so anyway, Dee and I call him Dee, we got to talking, we would, you know, exchange and got to talking. And one time he disappeared for a couple of weeks. And I was like, so then I saw him again, and I said, dude, I said, where you been? You know, what's been going on? And he's like, oh man, Patti, you know, I got beat up, and, you know, somebody took all my stuff. He's like, you know, I got to deal with the demons at night, and then I got to deal with the demons in my head, you know, and it's just too much. And it just started me thinking about like the whole homeless plight and homeless situation, which, you know, and I've long been an advocate for the Poor People's Campaign, but just in really having this conversation with this brother, it just made me realize that how much, you know, nobody chooses really for that situation, right? So this starts with a verse from the Bible. That says, the poor and the oppressor have this in common: the Lord gives sight to the eyes of both. So somebody asked me, why are you here? Let me be clear, I'm here for those who couldn't be here, should be here, but are full of fear or lack of ear or dumb luck. I stand for the man or the woman who sits on the side of society's lines or perhaps rides in the back of the streetcar named Desire because they couldn't get hired or they got fired and things got tough and the streets got rough. And now getting older and the streets getting colder, they have nowhere to lay their head. Until they are dead and the city reclaims them in a plot of land that they should have had all along. Might things have changed from the chains of that, might things have changed from the chains and the demons that reign had they had that lot, that dirt plot to call home. Instead, they remain homeless. Now we about the business of making money and keeping our eyes on it, keeping our minds on it and ignoring the bodies piling on the streets that we drive and the park benches that we sit. Yeah, we know all the hymns and the Tims while ignoring those on the street dying and losing limbs. So somebody asked me, why am I here? I'm here for those who live with the demons of street life, not knowing whether they get beat down tonight and die in the glow of a homeless light. So let me ask you, why are you here? And thank you. That's actually out of a conversation that happened at a neighborhood watch meeting when I had moved to Bolton Hill, and they were having this neighborhood watch meeting. And so I went into this meeting at this church, and I have to say I was probably the only minority. If there was another one in there, I missed them, but I was the only minority in the group. And as I was sitting there about halfway through the presentation, this woman leaned over and she asked me, why was I here? She said, why are you here? True. Okay, yes, I know. It's like, what? Yes, true story. Yes. Amazing. I couldn't believe just the gall of like, and that's where I start out here with like, somebody asking like, I'm like, why are you here? It just really, it stunned me for a moment. And then finally I was able to come back with something, but yeah, kind of interesting situations. If you did get the book, the artwork that's in the book is about my hearts. Hopefully you got a PDF copy online so you can see all the beautiful color that's in that. Those are my drawings. And I draw the heart because I feel like we all have the same shaped heart inside of us, but it's that inner piece of which is our soul that makes us the difference, right? It makes us realize the rights and the wrong. It makes us see, it makes us reach out, and those, that do, and those that don't, well, we don't really care. So this particular poem was not during that time. This was my letter to George Floyd. And I just happened to just like write this when I was actually when I was watching one of his brothers, because we kept calling him George Floyd, they call him Perry, and one of the things they were talking about was when he was in school and just how much he was revered because he was this like football player and and everything like that. And so I wanted to make sure that he was never forgotten and that his full name was always remembered. And so I wrote this, and in doing so, I have a couple of Bible verses that go along because I seek solace sometimes there in trying to understand things. So I think you guys can read that part. I'm going to just start with how I start this poem out, and this is a letter to George Perry Floyd in heaven. Hey there, son, what's that flower you have on? Could it be a faded rose from days gone by? Did I hear you say you was leaving me here today? Heading for that mansion in the sky. You're gonna head up to that mansion in the sky. Dear George, remember when you were a kid and your mom, like my mom, told you the police were our friends? Remember when you played cops and robbers? Were you like me and always wanted to be the cop because the police were good and the robbers were bad? George, do you remember when your friends, like my friends, would get a spanking and cry real hard and that spanking would stop? Do you remember when you caught the winning football pass and the crowd cheered? Do you remember when you cried for your mama when she died and when you cried for her again and she came and walked you into heaven? George, I don't want you to remember the knee on your neck or the one on your legs. George, I will remember for you. I will remember you. I will pray you can breathe now. I will remember that you could not. George Perry Floyd, I will not let time forget. Thank you. Yeah, that's a tough one. So since I did the football thing, I always do this one too during football season. It's the one that's called indemnity. Because I got really irritated about the whole story with Colin Kaepernick and the fact that the whole point of him taking the knee was because a retired, I think he was one of the wars, either Korea War or Vietnam War, one of the wars, had said that they didn't like seeing him sit on the bench. And this was an older white gentleman, retired military, older white gentleman. And he said he didn't like seeing him sit on the bench because he was originally, he and this other player, Eric, they were sitting on the bench. And he said, rather than sit on the bench, what we do when we have fallen brothers, because, you know, the whole point of Kaepernick's thing was to talk about the murdering of young Black men, particularly when they are apprehended by the police. He said, you know, I'd rather see you take a knee because that's how we honor our fallen in the military. So that's when he started taking a knee. And of course, the whole thing got changed, switched, co-opted by, you know, whomever, and turned into something completely anti-patriotic, anti-America, which in my mind is just so absolutely crazy because of the fact that I don't believe that you can, I can't believe that African-American people can be anti-American or unpatriotic for the sheer fact of, number one, we built the country, and number two, we are the ones that believe in democracy no matter what. If you look at history, time and time again, we have made that argument and tried to live through that. So anyway, I'm gonna get off my high horse, but I'm gonna talk about indemnity. So anyway, it took Colin Kaepernick to take a knee for you to pay attention to me, but not because my brothers was getting killed, but because it fucked up your TV. I thought you were kidding me, but you weren't. A football game is worth more than a Black life, given all the struggles and strife rooted in slavery and a marginal life. Right. It wasn't you, it was your ancestors who started the fight. But can't you see the need to make it right? Can't you see the boarded up houses where I lay my head and soldiers laying on the street dead? Big Mama paid rent for decades, putting pretty flowers on her stoop. She tried hard to change the neighborhood troop. And when she died, that nice white man that she paid her life's money to put all her treasures on the street for looters to go through. Now, I'm supposed to believe that he cares about me? Stop coming at me with your ifs and buts. I've had enough. I'm standing loud and proud and fearless. Oh, I'm gonna make America great, but the battle won't be tearless. Look at me, look at the color of my skin. I'm neither African nor European. I'm straight off the Dixie plantation. So you see, when the brothers take a knee, it has little to do with distant wars or fake treaties, but everything to do with the shitty way people that look like me in this country are being treated. Make America great, that's a joke. just as Big Mama spoke. You know, I went over there the other day. Yeah, I went over there the other day and I took a knee and I prayed for Big Mama and for you and for me. And when I raised my head from asking for peace, I saw Big Mama's picture laying face up in the street. Now that nice white man told me get off his stoop as he put the for rent sign over my head. And so I had to wonder, you think he gives a damn that Big Mama is dead? Thank you. Thanks. So just so you guys know, sometimes when I'm performing it, it's not the same as the book because I think I skipped a verse in there. So now when you're reading it, you go, wait, she didn't say that. It's like, yeah, no, okay. Sometimes that happens, you know. I write these so much and I get. Bernardo, are we okay on time? I don't know where we are on time.
We are doing good, Patty. I want you to give us one more.
Okay.
And then we'll have some question and answer for you.
Okay, and are we having one at the end as well, or?
You're going to do a poem at the end to take us home.
Okay, cool, because I just wanted to make sure I did the right one. All
Okay.
right, so I'm going to do this a poem called American Pie, and it's one where I was watching Billy Collins, or I think I was doing like one of those like free master classes, right? Like, you know, from him in some kind of way in there. He said something about like that poets spend a lot of time staring off in space. And so when he said that, I was looking out my window and it just made me think about it. So the other thing was the American Pie. So you guys know that song says, bye, bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys was drinking whiskey and rye, singing, this'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die. As I stare off in space, contemplating the place where my race will end up from the bottom, up from the ground, up from the worn soles, no bootstraps to hold. Yeah, I know the story is getting old, so it was sold to you a long time ago, but not so. You see, repercussions prevail, and the reparations talk becomes a game involving someone being shamed. And while politicians hold the reins but remain uninterested, you see, they continue to get paid. Yet we stand where we stood 400 years ago in the woods, except now it's called the hood. And that old man, he's not running the plantation. No, now he's running gentrification. While we were trying to catch up on a few things, we missed that bell that rings on Wall Street. You see, we were busy straining, trying to find something to eat. Well, that old man, he was eating prime beef, just handed us a subprime lease. Robbed of the piece of the American pie, we are left with a black eye. You see, folks pretend not to see, say they don't believe, because blame the victim. That's always easy. It's a narcissist that leads, and the people, the poor people, bleed. American Pie, a song on how to die for the privileged white boy when the rainbow wasn't enough. Looking off in space, you see, I contemplate the place where my race will end up, and I hold my head up. Because I know that like cockroaches and flies, we ain't all gonna die, so damn the American pie. Thank you. What I skip? Oh, so damn the whiskey and rye, the American pie. Sorry guys, but I just, you know, I get the feeling this thing and I get the feeling it and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Just, you know. So that's it. There's a couple, I know there's a couple more in here. The poem, I think the one that they showed on the site, which is the Deposer, that poem is dedicated to Christine Blasey Ford, Dr. Ford. You know, she testified against Brett Kavanaugh. I think we are feeling the repercussions of that very yesterday as the clocks changed at midnight and so many women were left without a choice of their own body today. They have no choice of what to do with their own bodies in Texas, which is really just incredible. And it's so incredible because I remember when after the insurgency and everybody was, oh, don't worry, I think it was Lindsey Graham. So, oh, what do you think? We're going to go back to Jim Crow? We'll never go back to and I'm down here in North Carolina, and, we have a lot of older, elderly people. And it's like, they're scared. They were scared to death, And so when you say, oh, we wouldn't do this, we wouldn't do that, but look at what's very happening right now, and we're turning back so many things, and to turn back something like that, to take away a person's privilege with their own body doesn't, and it has nothing to do with morals or anything else. It has to do with the person having a right to their own body. So that's kind of just bizarre to me. But oh, you know what? I meant to read one more for Bernardo and the DC crew. I had to decide if I read that at the end. I'm originally from Washington, D.C. And if anybody knows about D.C., they know about Marin Barry. Lady, that you know about Marin? Well, I'm
Yes,
gonna
I
tell
do.
y'all, I don't care what nobody say. Yes, I voted for Marin Barry. I voted for him every single time. And I will always vote for him. Marin Barry, one thing that he did that people can never take away from him is he did the youth program that all cities are trying to replicate right now. And I'm gonna tell you something, I was one of them little youth down there at Northwest Garden stuffing them envelopes and everything else to get my little summer paycheck. So anyway, and I did write something for him. Maybe I'll save that for the last one at the end. So.
Patti, you're phenomenal. If you can unmute yourselves, go ahead and do that. I don't know if you can do it without me telling you it's all right, but if you can, do so, please. That was phenomenal.
That was great.
If you have any questions for Patti, please put it in the chat. Also, in the chat is where you're going to put your name and indicate next to your name if you want to read on the open mic. And the open mic will start right after I finish talking to Patti a little bit more. I'm already there with the questions, Patti. Is there anything you speak for a lot of people? Is there anything you want your poetry to do? Do you have an expectation when you write it or you present it?
So yeah, I mean, I kind of have. I want my poetry to make an awareness, to bring in awareness to issues. So for me, I have a weird kind of background, right? So I have this background on my mother's side that is really poor, right? And so, I mean, and when I'm talking about poor, I mean real poor. When I was a child, I would go to my cousins, and I thought it was really cool to go to the outhouse. They didn't think it was so cool that I wanted to wake up in the middle of the night and go out to the outhouse. And then once one of them snakes jumped up, I didn't want to do it anymore. But I didn't think initially when I was little, I was like, that's kind of cool. You go outside and go to the bathroom. I didn't know, right? I was just a little kid. And then I have on my father's side where my great-grandparents, my great-grandparents were educated. So I have these two divergent sort of, backgrounds. And so by having that, I feel like it gives me in some ways the ability to speak for kind of both ends. And so I try to bring an awareness to people because I know that poverty and things like that are not a choice, right? Nobody says when they're a kid, yeah, I think I'd like to live on the streets, that'd be kind of fun. Like those are not choices that people make. Those are circumstances in which they that are put upon them and they have to deal with. And I feel like we need to stop, get out of this mindset that somehow the individual caused something to happen, right? Instead of looking at all of the different things that are going on, and that in doing that, that's also a part of the whole idea of understanding history and understanding systemic racism and systemic issues, right? And one of the poems in the book talks about History Month, right? And so, it's like, why my history got to be only 1 month long. So this is like a conversation that me and my cousins would have on the back porch, on the stoop, right? Like, why my history got to be only 1 month long, right? Didn't I, and it's like, I wish that we had, taught history as history. And that's what we need to do, is teach the history of this country is really how it is, and get away from all of this revisionism, right? That happens when we begin to talk about different things. And I mean, I used to work in the schools, and I would walk past, different classrooms, and I remember one day I heard a media specialist talking to these kids. I think they were like 5th graders, and she was telling them about how the enslaved were helping the farmer with the farm, right? And so I'm gonna tell you, I thought I was gonna fall out right then, right, and just completely lose it. And that was probably why I needed to retire too, because I was getting ready to start saying too many things to people. So, I had to go back and check her later. And I did. And listen, and me and her, we are friends to this day, right? Because, but I was like, Teresa, I was like, girl, let me tell you something. You cannot tell that story like that. You cannot lie like that. Like, and she, and her thing was, I don't know how to say it. I don't know what to say. And, you just say it. You just tell the absolute truth. And that's what I feel like, I try to do, is just put it out there and say, hey, this is how it is. And so that's pretty much what I would like to happen. And I pay for it sometimes.
Big snaps, sister, big snaps, because your poetry is so moving. It's so intensely personal. It makes me feel like I'm looking at the image you are describing. And now you're saying that you want to not only tell their story to somebody else, you want to tell them their story. That's powerful, that you're telling both ends of the spectrum the story, and hopefully that can bring some things together. Someone was asking me, are you currently working on any projects involving the poetry?
Yeah, so I have, I'm working on some poems about women in my family. And well, really not just in my family, but women that I know that are around, like, you have this extended family, right? Like we all do. Like if you grew up in the country or in the hood, it's not just yours, your mom, your dad, or whatever. It's the whole, it's the whole neighborhood. I grew up in Tacoma Park, and I can tell you right now, when Ms. Bazell was looking out her kitchen well, first of all, we would ride our bikes, and she told us we couldn't ride on her sidewalk. You know how like nowadays they tell you, oh, with the sidewalk going by everybody. Let me tell you something, we got off our bikes, walked in front of her house, and then got back on our bikes, because Miss Gazelle was looking out that window, and she was waiting for one of us to ride that bike on her green grass, okay? Because it was going to be a problem if that happened. So yes, I'm writing about women right now, and hopefully I would like to have that done. And one of the poems in the book, called Ghosting, is actually a true poem. It's a true story of a family member who is ghosted. She's gone, and she merged into white society, and we have never seen her since. And
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
yeah, you say ghosted. Right now there's a lot of stuff going on with this COVID thing, and I just heard that Florida's numbers are just crazy. And it's, I don't know. I just talked to a friend yesterday. He talked about a cousin that died at 42. He was feeling sick. He went to a hospital. 48 hours later, he's on a ventilator. 2 weeks later, he's gone. There's so much tragedy going on, and we are fighting to make a difference. And I applaud you, sister, on the difference that I see you making. I want to turn it to a little bit lighter though right now, because there's a lot of heaviness going on, such that I can't even look at the news anymore. I'll look at it probably maybe tomorrow evening, maybe Saturday. I don't know. But you jumped out there and started singing on me, right? And then I knew you started. I know you danced. You draw. You write. And I've never been one who was gifted enough to be invited to join the School of Performing Arts. And I just assumed that there you were exposed to every facet of the arts there is.
Yeah.
Did you come into the school being a poet, or is that something that you gravitated to later?
So no, I've been writing poetry for a very long time. I'm probably a really good elegy. I should be a really good elegy writer, because just about everybody, when somebody died in the family, they're like, "You gonna write a poem? You gonna write a poem?" Because I started writing poems for people when I've forgotten who died. Maybe it was my great grandmother died first, and it was funny that I mentioned her. She had a pink bedroom. I'm sitting in a pink bedroom. That's wild. She must be here. That's wild. Anyway. I started writing hers first, and then after I wrote hers, like I said, it's just people in the family. As different people died, aunties, cousins, everybody, they were like, "You gonna write a poem? You gonna write?" So I did that. But then, as far as going to Ellington, no, I auditioned to go to Ellington for dance. I actually took dance at the Washington School of Ballet, started at National School, Washington School of Ballet for many, many years. And then when they opened Ellington, but it wasn't Ellington when I went there, it was still Western and School of the Arts. And my last year, they changed the name to Ellington. So I'm one of those like founding members, which is so crazy. I don't even get it, because some kind of way. But yeah, we hardly suffered. We had Mike Malone and Peggy Caffords were the leaders of the school at the time that I was there, and it was great. I mean, we had such wonderful artists come through that school to teach us. And we did. We had, we would have lectures in visual art, and you had your singers, I mean, we just had like, a lot of great, we had an opportunity to have a lot of great folks come through, having Mike and Peggy at the helm of the school. So that was really a fortunate piece, and being able to be exposed to all of that. So that's how that happened. And I went to the Philadelphia College of Performing Arts. So Philly is a town, to my heart. And then I went to, and then I came back and went to American University. I hit New York. I slept on floors. I did that whole thing, and then I was like, okay, well, you know what? For some reason, I'm not going to make it on the big stage, so I'm gonna go back home. And I did. I went back. And so when I went to school, I realized, and as I was doing all this, I realized that I really only wanted to be a performer. I never wanted to teach dance. And most of the time, if you take dance in terms of a degree, you would be a teacher or a stage manager or something like that. And so I didn't want to do that, but I did always enjoy writing. And so I was actually a journalism major in college. And I did work for the college newspaper too as well. And then when I came out of college, I went to grad school for a little bit, but I right away I came out and I got like these little like newspaper kind of freelance gigs with the Times, and then Rural America. So Rural America was a nonprofit organization that managed newspapers in all the different rural places around the country. And so I wrote really like, labor pieces and stuff like that. So still the social justice, piece was even starting then at a young age. And so that's kind of how that happened. And but then eventually I didn't make any money. My mother was like, "Girl, you got to get a job. You got to pay these school bills." So I did. I went and got a job, and that was it. I stopped after that. Then, for us women, we had to have kids. We got to take care of them. We put everything on the back burner, and then COVID happened, and I said, to hell with all of y'all. I'm quitting my job. I'm gonna speak my mind. And that's about it. That's really what happened.
So COVID actually was an awakening for you, huh?
I mean, I think so. I mean, I was definitely getting there. I was getting there. Like I said, in the schools, I was having, because when I was writing, of course, right. And so then when you're writing, you're also doing research, and
Yeah.
you know how things, but then when you start reading more about it, you start remembering it, and you're like, oh yeah, wait a minute, and they didn't say that, and I forgot they didn't tell me that, and so like you want to start sharing all and then I'm hearing all these people telling these false narratives, and I'm like, yo, wait a minute. Like, you didn't tell that right? Because I just read it the other day because I was writing this poem and I was doing this sentence. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna need to go because I'm gonna get in trouble. Get in trouble by somebody trying to tell them that they need to tell that story correctly. So I did at the end of May in 2020, I stopped. And also too, I have an elderly aunt who lives in Richmond and my mother's here in North Carolina, and I am the kind of caregivers for the two of them. So my aunt is 93, and but we're gonna pick her up tomorrow, and she's gonna come up to Maryland for a while. So
All right.
mhm.
You're in the right place, Patti. Your journey, it sounds like an awesome one. Um, and you are definitely in the right place. You seasoned and prepared, and your heart is still tender despite the toughness of the life that you've seen. That's just fantastic. I'm so proud to have been able to talk to you. Okay, man. At this time, I'm
Look
looking
at
at
these
the
great
clock.
people though, Bernard. Look at it. I got Sister Joy up in here to be, like, come on now. I got some good teachers up in here too now. I got analysis, Mr. Ken Brown. They got Tracy Smith up in here. Shoot, I'm like, Lady Di, Katie's here. I mean, come on. This is
That's what I'm saying.
That go Ann over there.
That's what I'm saying. You are in the right place. The universe has worked out so that it brought you here. You got that last poem for me, right?
Yeah, I do. And I see Hiram hiding in there. Where Hiram didn't show, he's not showing his face. Okay.
He never does. Okay, well, right now we're going to go to the open mic. I've only seen 2 names pop into the open mic. I've already talked to Emily, who said that indicated she wanted to be on open mic. So we're going to have some open mic, and then we're going to come back and close out with you, Patti. You're just a fantastic person. I'm so glad I got to meet you and to talk to you. Beyond your bio, to understand the depth of who you are. Sister, you're phenomenal. So thank you, Patti. Everybody, applaud for Patti. Okay, I'm going to unmute Emily right now. And Emily, go ahead and hit the unmute button. Can you do that? You see where the button is, the microphone? In the lower left-hand corner, it should be across. So just click on the microphone. Okay. Let's see.
Maybe if you unmute everybody, she can get on then.
Okay. Let's do that. Try it again, Emily. I don't see a mute. I have a mute. Allow them to unmute. Okay. While Emily is looking for that, and I'm looking to try to help her do that, we have Sister Joy on the list of people to read. Sister Joy, you want to unmute and share with us your poem? Can you unmute? I can't, I don't see you. Are you kidding me? Nobody can unmute? No one can unmute?
Okay,
There you
Okay.
go. You
There.
just did it.
yeah,
Thanks,
okay,
Elizabeth.
thank you. Okay, can Emily unmute at this time? Because if she can, I have no problem with her going first.
Right? I'm waiting for Emily, but
Okay, I'll go ahead and go. All right, this poem is titled "The Work of Reparations." The work of reparations. Reparations, what does it mean? Can a people be repaired. We who are in need, we who have been violated, now demand our right to reparations. Acknowledging we first must define what it is that we want, that we need. What will repair us from atrocities committed over centuries? What will fill this hole in our collective soul? A healing so profound, it will echo around the world. Resounding chants of ancestors reverberate throughout time. Even they can't do this. We must do it. Their call for healing through hope reborn. They dared connect their despair to dreams of freedom. This is our anchor, the vantage point from which we decry an horrific history. We must be set free. Our ancestors prayed this day would come. It is from this plateau we strive to define ways to heal wounds not of our own making, and allow those who owe the opportunity to understand and genuinely embrace this need. This debt is legitimate. It can make right what has been wrong for far, far too long. It means we can finally be free from collective pains centuries old. Breaking chains still clanking in the hulls of long ago sunken ships to which our souls are still tethered. In this precious word, reparations, we seek to find a way that can not take the pain away, but allow us to move past lash marks and torn limbs, past auction blocks and Jim Crow, past last hired and first fired, profiling, redlining, and 21st century lynch nooses. We who were forced to endure it all, brought here against our will, brought and bought here, bought and sold here, everything taken, their souls emptied. But now we who are their progeny claim the right, accept the responsibility, demand as citizens of this flawed society the chance to find a balm strong enough to soothe slavery's eternal ache. Anything else is insufficient. Only this will finally set us free. This is the first charge of we who seek and speak of reparations.
Nice.
Very nice, Sister Joy. Very nice.
Thank you.
Emily, I see you found the button.
I found the button, but I don't know where it goes. Where does it go?
Don't do anything else. Just go ahead and read your poem.
Okay, all right. I appreciate all the other poets' work. It was very interesting, informative. And nevertheless, I don't know about reparations. I'm part Cherokee and part Irish, and we suffered like hell too under the cruel hand of the Americans and the English. And start giving reparations. I don't, anyway. I'm going to read a poem that has, that I believe was kind of the beginning of all our involvement in the Middle East and Iraq and Afghanistan, et cetera, et cetera. And this is called, I was going to buy a soda. I was feeling kind of restless. I was going to walk downtown. I was tying up my shoes. I was about to leave the house. I was looking for some money. I was looking for some change. I was going to buy a soda. I was going to stop at a machine. It was in the city park where I was going to sit down. I was going to look out on the water. I was hoping to see the swan. It was a lovely day in the late summer. It was sun shining everywhere. It was just before the seasons changing. I was about to flip off the TV. It was then I saw the jet plane crashing. It was bursting into flame. It was smashing into the World Trade Center. It was smoke rising everywhere. I was lighting up a cigarette. I was staring at the screen. I was trying to count some quarters up. I was just about to leave. It was then my hands began to shake as I was trying to count the change. I was a quarter short of 911. It was what kept going through my head as I was trembling with the change. I was feeling kind of anxious. Still, I was going to walk downtown. I was going to stop off at the park. I was hoping to see the swan. I was going to buy a soda. I was going to stop at a machine. I was a quarter short of 911. It was what kept going through my head as I was slamming the door to leave. I was forgetting my keys were on the table. I was shifting off on the wrong streets. I was wandering up the mountain. I was lost among the trees. I was searching for a way out. I was trying to find the creek. I was going to follow the water. I was hoping to soon be on the street. I was feeling kind of thirsty. I was going to stop at a machine. I was going to buy a soda. I was counting up my change. It was again my hands began to shake as I was trying to count the change. I was a quarter short of 911. It was what kept going through my head as I was trembling with the change. I was beginning to feel more anxious. I was beginning to start to weep. I was weeping low like the little sparrow who was lying wounded at my feet. I was wailing high like its little mother who was circling above me about the trees. I was a quarter short of 911. It was what kept going through my head as I was trembling with the change. I was clutching the quarters in my left hand. I was grabbing them with my shaking right. I was grabbing the quarters one by one. I was hurling them far beyond my sight. I was hurling them out into the forest. I was hurling them out with all my might.
Wow.
Mhm.
That was a moment, Emily, and excellent description of that moment. Wow. I guess you got to find some place to read that this weekend, huh? Next weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that needs to be heard. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry if I offended anyone about the reparations. It's just that also there was an article in the paper about teaching history, and it said the westward movement was very hard on African Americans. And I'm not too much aware of what that all entailed, but I'm part Cherokee. it was very hard on Cherokee because they forcibly removed them from their southern homes and forced them to walk to Oklahoma in bitter cold weather, in which over 4,000 died en route. They put them in stockades and outright killed them. Also, I'm Irish and under the control of the English in Ireland. When the potato famine happened, the English did nothing to assist the Irish to get anything to eat. They died on what they called coffin ships. I mean, there's just so many races that have suffered and suffered and suffered. And Jewish people, of course, in the Holocaust. I don't know. I mean, we start paying everyone money that has suffered, including me. I suffered, but I'm not asking for any money for that. I'm suffering now. I'm not asking for any money for that.
So
Well, that's-
Emily, I can't sit still any longer. I got to tell you something about reparations, okay? And I tell people this all the time. Get it out of your mind that it has to always be about money, okay? Reparations can be seen in many different forms, many different ways. But the fact of the matter is, until you make a people right, and that doesn't mean to the exclusion of making other people right, right? Yes, I get it. The Walk of Tears was horrible. You know, you need to make others right as well. But for the African-American people in this country who were enslaved people who came here, the Irish people, no matter what you say, they came as a choice. While they were servants and they had to make that
They were
servitude.
servants, they were tenant farmers, they were less than.
But honey, but when they came across on the boat, the
Yeah,
very
they were
beginning,
starving, that's why they came across. They were
but they came
starving,
across
literally
as a
starving.
servant, right? They came as a servant for servitude, and they were able as a people to make that choice. Africans were not able to make a choice to say whether if they wanted to come to this country or not to come to this country. So they didn't have that choice. And I think that's why people say, you know, let's look at the reparations for African Americans, because every single time as well, what happened was when we came to this country, not only were we enslaved, but then as we begin to grow and progress, just like the Irish did, just like other folks did, then what happened was they developed a thing called race, right? And race
what?
gave us a color, right?
Yes.
And so you could not then mix yourself into the population of people who were able and allowed to have bootstraps and to pull themselves up. And that's why it's so important in terms of reparations, because so many things went against a person of just as simple as something as simple as their color of their skin. Because I'm going to tell you right now, how many Smiths do you think were really Smites? Okay. How many golds do you think were really Goldbergs? You know, that's the reality, to be able to move into the mainstream of society, but as people of color, we weren't. And reparations doesn't have to be about money. I have this discussion with the people in my church all the time, because I'm a deacon, trust me, they don't like it. It doesn't. We can look at it in many different ways, because it's really talking about giving a race an opportunity to grow. And that's what we're talking about here when we talk with, at least I think for me and the people I know, when we talk about reparations, we're talking about giving our race an opportunity to grow and excel at the same rate and pace that the other races were able to grow and excel. That's what we're talking about, not necessarily a financial pay, you know, somebody has to pay money to individual people. Now, we'll tell you that that's not necessarily a bad thing, because they did it for the Japanese, right? When the Japanese were interned, the way that they fixed that internment for the Japanese, because again, here are people that are defined by a trait in their body that they cannot change, right? So they can't mix into main society either and be something else different. So I just wanted to tell you that, Emily, because I know I want people to start to
the
think.
Western expansion, there was a bounty on the scalps in Washington State of every Indian child, woman, child, or whatever, male. They would pay them to kill them and bring in scalps. And this article did not mention the plight of many Native American people. And even now they are looked down on because they've lost their spirituality due to the American influence and what's happened to them. and they have a high rate of alcoholism and drug abuse, which Americans do also, so far short of whites, I suppose. But at any rate, you know, I think we have to see everyone not as what color they are, just as what kind of person they are.
All right. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Patty. You might want to exchange email in the chat so you can continue this. I did not, it's kind of awkward. I didn't want to cut anybody short to express a point. I think the most important thing with what I told Sister Joy in the chat was an excellent point of view to speak of reparations as a situation whereby you are repaired.
Yes.
That's it in a nutshell. And the idea that what she did provoke thought is exactly what poets do. We, like Patty said, we look out the window, something comes to us, a piece of inspiration, and we say what we got to say because we have to help and help other people see something without, you know, making them feel bad. Hopefully, you know. But the idea is that the feelings that you have are your feelings. They are inside of you. You know, I don't think anybody forces a feeling on you. They state their opinion, and you feel a certain way about it. You react a certain way about it, and luckily for us, it was done so in a matter of mutual respect. What we are in a poetry reading, and we want to go ahead and finish up some time. If y'all want to exchange emails, like I said, you know, go, because I mean, I think it's a worthwhile conversation to have.
Thank you, but I don't know a thing about emails. Maybe
all right, we'll get there, but let me proceed on the open mic list.
I ruined my career, my writing career. I did have
Okay.
all my read published in Calliope and
All right, but I got to move on, Emily.
Yeah.
okay, fine.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, you are next up. Do you want to? I don't see any other names in the chat other than Elizabeth's. And I know there's some poets in the room, so we got time. If you want to share, let me know. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Oh, you unmute.
Unmute.
Unmute, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you can't unmute? Yes, you are now. Where's your volume? We can't hear you. Is your volume up? Try now. No, there's something going on. Wow. Marilyn, said you want to read? Elizabeth, let's try one more time. Go ahead and talk to me. Okay. Marilyn, you want to go ahead and unmute? Come on now. What is going on?
No, it says I can't.
I hear you.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, got through. All right. Okay, well, this is a little change of direction. I've been thinking about how you tell the difference between spirit and flesh. You know,
Uh-huh.
it's that borderline between what something is and the environment it lives in. So this is a poem called Worship. They were one when I lifted him from the stream, but what was once him escaped, flowed on, wet and slick towards the rapids downstream. I saw him flick spray there, where the rocks are biggest and staggered in their placement. Further off, I saw him leap and sparkle just before he dove deep to hide murky green and brown close to a rocky bottom. Shortly after, a cloud crossed the sun. The warmth was gone. The day waned. I had no more luck, so I took him home to have for dinner. But his spirit wasn't lying upon my plate. And though I ate, I dreamed of the glimpses I had of him that afternoon. The sleek way he broadened and bent around a point of land, the way he parted when a canoe paddled by, the way he rippled and lingered under willows weeping at the riverside. These are my memories of him, wrapped in humid air, a hum of bugs and the brush of river grasses, twigs and leaves. At odd moments in the days that followed, others reminded me to pay attention. Absorbed, I handled fishing poles before supper. My spouse claimed I was still absent, suggested that perhaps I had been bewitched during my last fishing trip. She wonders aloud, who caught whom? Asks, when will this spell dispel? I tell her the fishing was only so-so, a truth, and yet also a lie. I tell her that I dislike eating trout, another truth, coated in the crumbs of deceit, for I am called, like an acolyte, to kneel on the banks of rivers, trying to divine that which is spirit from that which is flesh.
Mm,
Nice.
very nice.
Very nice, Marilyn. I love it.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, are you ready now? Come on, Elizabeth. Oh, I want to hear you so bad. I want to hear you so bad. Wow. Ah. Okay, you muted again. Try it again. Try to unmute. As you can see, I can't be seen, y'all. Y'all can hear my voice, but I don't know what's going on with this thing tonight.
Hmm,
Elizabeth,
You're still muted.
you're still muted.
He's trying something, she says.
Okay. Analysis, how you gonna show up in a room, brother, with what you got and not say nothing? Are you gonna read tonight?
Mhm.
Come on, oh, come on, not you too. No.
No, I'm here.
All right.
I'm chuckling. I was trying to slide in on the slide, and lay back in the corner of the room up in the cut and just chill. But I'll go ahead and get on after Elizabeth finishes, or after whoever.
All right, well, I got you now. Elizabeth is still trying. Let's make use of the time. Come on.
All right. Let's see what we're gonna do. Like I said, I hadn't planned to do anything, but given the subject of much of the conversation, I'll go ahead and do this. Many of you heard this many times, but towards the end of the poem, you'll hear a direct reference to our previous conversation. So, but this is all based on the fact that the immediate past president of the United States said a few years ago during his first term over a series of statements, and I quote, "Had Andrew Jackson been a little bit later, you wouldn't have had the Civil War. He was a very tough person, but he had a big heart. Why was there the Civil War? Why could that one not have been worked out?" End quote. Can't make this shit up, I tell you. They say a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. You, sir, have such precious little that your imbecility is an existential threat. Your behavior like that of a petulant child with dangerous toys in your possession and caretakers that cater to your every world-threatening whim. This gullible country put the mic in your hand and now we have to suffer a fool. Letting you comment on the past is like letting a fiend into a pharmacy to pass out prescriptions of pernicious opinions. Not everyone has to overdose on dumb shit. At least your predecessor was more smooth, not unlike Jefferson or indeed your idol. They all said nice things while stabbing nations in the back. You, however, just overrun us with overt insults to our intelligence. We need a wall built around your mouth to protect us from your invasion of ignorance and to send all of the bull back to the shithole mindset it came from. Why could that one not have been worked out? Exactly how was it going to be a 40-45? How? You ain't got all the answers. Hell, you don't even have the right questions. I ask you exactly what was going to be worked out. Clearly not the breaking of bondage. No, that was a deal breaker to his business plan and yours. What we got was the life worked out of our lungs, the blood worked out of our veins, We worked in the living hell, and the fact that we still live at all is testimony to our resiliency, not to the benevolence of any great white father, including the seventh. Andrew would have been just another stonewall against our ancestors' abolition. In the Union he maintained, greed joined guns to guarantee his personal gain. No wonder you like him so much. You deal with human beings as if they were mere chips in the casinos you build, speculating in land and lives just as your hero did. Long after the War of Northern Aggression, your family succeeded in aggressive housing practices that forced families to secede. You sit in your lofty towers, but for many, this country is more of a holding pen than a hermitage, and you don't have to be on top of the Smokies to see the tracks of their tears. They form a trail. From displaced to disenfranchised, from murdered to impoverished, from corralled to allocated false freedom. Why was there the Civil War? Look, let's roll away the old hickory smokescreen. Obviously, you long for those antebellum days. I bet you and your supremacist surrogates would love to make America great again with the peculiar institution, recapturing that time like your role model recaptured runaways. Thus, there's nothing peculiar about your repression of wages, your ripoff of workers. Back then, they used bayonets and bullets breech loaded. Word is, you renege on your contracts. They're breached. Loaded with lies like your tiresome tweets, gloated upon while you live like a leech, bloated on the blood of the poor. How very presidential of you. Just like your boy. You say of him, he was a very tough person, but he had a big heart. See, all this whimsical whitewashing of history books this type of brainlessness and belies your ever having studied a more thorough syllabus. Your foolish forays into the past are like colonizing hands grabbing the pussy of my mother Africa, and thus King Leopold's ghost still haunts me. Our greatness came before Columbus, but these attempts at the destruction of Black civilization have us wanting to feel the warmth of other suns. The price for our pound of flesh is disregarded because the half has never been told of how this country's comfort is constructed on the cruelty inflicted upon people of color. I think it's time the hotel magnate learned from the inn's keep, because Jackson Land wasn't any Mar-a-Lago. So fuck the lies your teacher told you. You need a people's history of the United States in which the souls of Black folk are celebrated and the hearts buried at Wounded Knee are revered. Now, just as then, the demonic belief in divine white privilege drives the degradation of those you deem beneath you, but understand that we carry the divine within us too. And be not deceived, gods are not mocked. Are you prepared to reap what your arrogance sows? The brass of your trumpets, so full of sound and fury, signifying nothing, must be silenced. And the only Jacksons I want to see are the trillions of 20s my people are owed in reparations. You ask, why was there the Civil War? Shit. You better ask yourself if you're going to cause the next one. Historiography.
Wow. Man. How do you put the genie back in the bottle? Wow. Awesome, brother. Awesome. And you captured everything, man. You captured so much. You know, the book titles, all the little things that people who read a little bit understand what you're talking about.
I'm so glad you caught them.
You're coming from the knowledge, brother. I appreciate you, man. I'm glad.
I appreciate it.
You see why I had to stir you now, because we need that energy, bro. All right.
I'm trying to mind my own business, but no.
I just want to say, Ken and I went to the same school. I'm just saying.
Black Eagles, Ebony Eagles in the house.
Ebony Eagles.
All right. Okay. Let's go to Elizabeth now. Elizabeth, is it working?
Oh, I thought we heard you.
I thought I heard you laugh. Okay. All right. Tell you what, try to go out and come back in. Go, can you hear me? Go out and come back in. I'll let you in. In the meantime, Jane, are you a poet? You want to read? Come on, not again. Let's try this.
You have to unmute. She's okay. You did.
I think I'm unmuted now. Let me turn my light on.
All right.
And I don't have it at the ready like our previous poet. I'm gonna
Okay.
come right over here.
You ready?
All right, this is what's up, Paul. This is a reclaiming of my tomboy from when I was 10 and
Okay.
getting her back.
All right.
My tomboy. At 66, got back my tomboy. At 10, I was not so much a daddy's girl as mom's boy. I was her sidekick, riding shotgun, shunning lipstick for a denim jacket and a ball cap, a yearly pixie cut, and cutoffs sticking down below school's mandatory skirt. At recess, I threw it in the dirt, went out for the long pass from the noon duty guard. In dodgeball, I was last one out. I learned to slide my body sideways like a snake, to leap splits above a low throw. I was not queen for a day, but my own queen, prince of my life. I used my mother's Maybelline to brush a dashing mustache on. I didn't so much want to be a boy as strong. To be the first girl in the major leagues or Peter Pan. I'd stand like Mary Martin in the full-length mirror, my arms akimbo, fists on hips, belting out, I won't grow up, or I've got a crow. I'd let the whole damn world know. I'd stare in mirrors, dreaming all that I could be. Then puberty. It got me lost, tossed off somewhere. I traded pixie cuts for long hair, ironed into window curtains for my face, replaced the cutoff jeans with mini skirts, tight shirts, halter tops, and chokers I would macrame. I learned not to talk too much, be too much of a joker, but to laugh at his jokes, ask him all about his folks, his hobbies, or his classes. I used the Maybelline to pile on my lashes. I thought I'd lost it, but I got it back. Finally, in Tai Chi class on a split screen, the teacher in New York, us following along at Berks. I looked up and caught a glance, saw not my awesome push hands waving through the clouds, not my spirit and my flow, not my dragon chasing pearls, just my belly and a big fat ass. I felt my face go hot. I stopped, and then I thought, well, fuck that. I'm a grandma now. If not now, then when? When will I get centered in my own right, not what I look like? So now the pixie cut in gray, the baseball cap are back. I'm kicking butt in Tai Chi on the yoga mat and at the pickleball court. I tell that nice girl self to take a back seat, let the heat fly. There's no sorry in pickleball or life, no time to be shy. I stand right up at the kitchen line. I can take the heat and not be fanned back. I'm learning how to whack back to the foot and to the body. Better get back. I play like a real girl and I can talk smack. Look out, I've got my tomboy back.
You are back. Back. Go
I
ahead.
love it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Got my tomboy back. Oh, I'm taking that. I like that.
Thank you.
Okay, the new lady has entered the room. Her name is Elizabeth.
Yay.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yay.
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
I hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you for your patience. This poem is called Mulberries. When the white mulberries ripen on the tree in my backyard, how do the birds know that the time is ripe for picking? Does the tree beckon? Does one alert starling or grackle tell the others? Do the mulberries send out their scent to the rain on the breeze? Such abundance, these berries dance with green leaves until most disappear into the beaks of baby birds, fed on this springtime harvest, soon gone. Be like the tree. When you have plenty to share, do it now, in season, while the fruit is ripening. Don't wait until sun and wind say dry up. Why wait for a better time than now?
Nice.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you. I'm going to submit that to Poetry X Hunger. Our friend Hiram
Oh,
is not
yeah.
here, but
Yes,
he's
very good.
welcoming poets to send poems to poetryxhunger.com. It's literally the word poetryxhunger.com. And you send a poem with a word file to worldfoodpoetry@gmail.com. And all the information is on the site. And then the cool thing is that for each poem submitted, 10 tree seedlings will be purchased on the poet's behalf and planted around the world by Eden reforestation projects, which employ local stakeholders in areas impacted by deforestation and poverty. I went, woo! This
Thank
poem
you.
is worth 10 trees.
All
And you put
right.
that in the chat for us, Elizabeth, where to look for that information.
Good.
And my friend, Katie is waiting in the wings. I know she's a very thoughtful, one of those poets that's always looking out of windows. So let's see what Katie now floating on the breeze.
I actually am totally in listening mode tonight.
Totally?
Totally. I'm
Okay.
enjoying it so much. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Katie. Lee Hinton, are you with us? Or are you just listening tonight as well, Lee? Okay. I guess at that we're coming to
Ah,
Now you can. He wanted you to unmute.
did you want to read it, Lee? Lee? Lee, are you there?
ooh.
Why didn't it go?
Oh, it did. It went only to Liz.
I can hear you. I can hear you,
I
Lee.
hear you now.
We can
No, I'm
hear you,
just
Lee.
listening to tonight.
Okay.
I'm like Katie. I'm like Katie.
Okay. Well, thank you for the wonderful painting.
Mhm.
I wish it were mine. It's not.
Okay. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I see Lady Di didn't make it back in time, so we're pretty much done for the night with the open mic portion of this.
Mhm.
So we're going to go ahead and set this off with Patti to send us home.
Okay. So I can do the last poem in the book, History Month, or I can do the Ode to Marion Barry. I don't know. I don't see a lot of DC people on here. Oh, I know. I see just what do you think, Bernardo?
I think you done talk to Marion. You got to deliver.
That's right.
Mhm.
Oh, the Marin Barry one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll read the history once we buy the book.
All right. Yeah, when you buy the book, just remember when you read it now, the line says, why my history got to be only 1 month long. You got to get that got to in there, okay?
I got it.
Okay. So this is an ode to Marion Barry. And if you were from DC, you called him Marin. And right. And Marin Barry started out in politics. He worked at SNCC, and then he came up to DC to run Pride.
Mhm.
And at the time, my dad was at PIC, which was People's Involvement Corporation. And so you had Pride, PIC, and you had the Urban League. You had these 3 Black guys that were running it. And a lot of people in the city knew because before then, all of the mayors for DC had been appointed. And the Black mayor that was appointed, Mayor Washington, it was already rumblings and talk that, DC wanted to vote, wanted to put their own mayor in and stop this negotiation with the Hill and all of this kind of stuff. And this is pre-home rule. And I can't remember if I don't think they've even gotten full home rule yet, because I still think there's no taxation, right? Yeah. So I think there's taxation, without representation. So anyway, but Marion Barry ended up winning, and much to Congress's chagrin. And so, and much to the city's, joy, many of us young people, that was kind of one of our first times voting too. So it's called Ode to Marion Barry. Oh, Marion, how we loved you. Not like the others who only knew your persona, who believed that we believed that you knew our names and faces, you knew our spaces, you knew us in Northwest Gardens, you knew us at the shrimp boat, you watched us at Fort DuPont Park in the summer's heat, snapping and dancing to the drums beat. At Freedom Plaza, you walked out of the district building and greeted us on the street. You were cool and had a stride that started with pride, encapsulating the work you learned at SNCC long before Barack made Black men hip. You strolled into the mayor's chair, grabbed that gavel and looked up at Congress and said, "I'm here." And they all almost shitted in their pants. They never did like that day, and you repeated it 3 more times. Mayor for life seemed right in the chocolate city. And even after the sweetness started to melt, your power to the people was still felt. We knew it was a trick. You see, when you call out injustice, there's always a tricky dick who's willing to spit. And yet, like JB, you did your 6 with dignity, and we still loved you. Maybe Ebonics is our cultural legacy because we can tell the difference between fake and real. And for real, you have been chasing skirts since the New Deal. People forget that Reagan greeted you, not the other way around. You were the head resident. He was just a visitor in our town. We were poor and Black, but proud, and the chocolate city was our sacred ground. We walked the streets like nobody's business, and it was nobody's business. Your last term in office was mayor of a city that no one knew. AIDS and crack had thrown us for a loop, and we were duped into giving control to the folks on the hill that gave us bills and made us numb to what was to come. We were on our knees, stripped of any home rule, and you were on your knees too. Prayers to the Almighty weren't getting through, and we had lost all rule of our home. Sterling A. Brown wrote it, and Maya said it that day that you took the title Mayor for Life. The strong men keep on coming. The strong men get stronger. But our song was muted. We had no rhyme. We had no rhyme. Time had been lost and was not on our side. Yours either. So here we are in a city no longer chocolate, but more like chocolate chip. That's it. Over to
Wow.
Marin.
Wow.
Marin Barry.
I think we chose right. We chose right.
But you know, people forget about Marin. Marin was a mess and a half in the city. I tell you the truth. You know, and they talk about Barack being, you know, hip and school, having that sway, but y'all didn't see Marin Barry used to dress and he, you know, and walk down the street like he owned it.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, I just thought about that. And that was fun. That was fun. It was so great to see everybody. And Sister Joy, thank you so much for the reparations poem. You know, I have one as well, and I think we all think about that. You know, and we're trying our hardest, all of us, to figure out how do we wrap ourselves around that and make that work. And I think that's the cool thing about, you know, creativity and poetry and visual art and just the arts in general is that, you know, everybody tries to find a way to express. We'll figure it out. We'll keep talking about it, you know?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Patti. I appreciate you.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you all.
Thanks, Bernard.
We have seriously overcome this evening, folks. All kinds of technical difficulties and high rising emotions and just a lot of stuff. And we made it through because one thing that I definitely one thing I believe in is that the word is the most important thing. And that's what poetry is about. It's about the word. And God tells us in the beginning was the word. And then the word came down and the word was given unto poets because poets were chosen to carry the message. And tonight, I think the message was carried very, very well. You know? And a lot of seeds have been planted beyond the seeds that Elizabeth talks about. We planted seeds into souls. And like the sower and the seed, the parable of the sower and the seed is that wherever the heart is tender, wherever the ground is ready and fertile, the seed will take hold and grow forth good fruit. It is only where the ground is hard or thorny that the seed can't then give the earth its sustenance to allow it to grow. And we can't allow it to be choked away by the pain that we feel or the fear or the anger. Those are the thorns and briars of life, and they will choke away the love. So let the word that was planted tonight and all of these wonderful poems about people, about memory, about love, about ideas, let those words go forth and resonate in each one of you. And may we all continue to grow. Thank you.
Amen.
Man, all right. From the poet to the poets. Yes.
That's right. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you,
guys.
Patty.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Great night.